Testing. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to convene the Committee of Conference on House Bill 624. You will note that there are 3 House members and 3 Senate members in attendance. The 4th House member, Representative Nodder, apparently confused the dates in her mind and is currently on her way to Vermont. So she will not be joining us
I think she agreed already. I'm kidding.
for this Committee of Conference.
Was
So
I?
let's get started. The House obviously non-concurred with the amendment drafted by the Senate. And we are here this morning to ask the Senate to remove Section 5 of its amendment. The section that specifically refers to net energy metering, hydroelectric generators, RSA 362-A:9, Section 20. The reason we're asking the Senate to remove that section is that 2 House committees heard House Bill 624 and 2 separate committees, ST&E and Ways and Means. And the House then passed HB 624 twice. But no House committee heard the Senate amendment specifically the Section 5 that I referred to a minute ago. And the House never had a chance to pass that bill or even vote on the bill one way or the other. And we believe that there are many questions that remain unasked and unanswered about the Section 5 in the amendment. Questions that the House never got a chance to ask. For example, how much will it cost? Will Brookfield cease operations without this change? Is it possible Brookfield could make other arrangements? What compelling need exists for this legislation? Why was this amendment offered at the last minute? And there are other questions as well. There's some Senate language that was added about energy storage, for example. And Representative Harrington has some questions about that. There's a further wrinkle here too, and that is that the House cannot consider legislation that impacts costs without first hearing that legislation in the House. And I know there's disagreement about whether net metering shifts costs or not, but if it does, that could impact state and municipal budgets. And a consideration like that would prevent the House from even considering Section 5 of the amendment. So as a result of all this, the House believes that the Section 5 of the amendment, if that was deleted, we could move forward with this bill. And that is the House position at this point. So I would like to hear from the Senate your reaction to our request.
Well, Senator?
Yeah, I'll say a couple words. Thank you, Representative Bose. As we discussed earlier, I understand the position and the issues of the House on this whole matter and also matters of process. And I just thought I'd offer a couple of thoughts. It was our feeling that with what we went through on 315 and 91 last year, that we certainly were attempting to make sure that the increase in the cap would be applicable where it appropriately could be, and that here, you know, I call what you want a glitch or a kind of just a methodology of how the wiring, you know, how the transmission is done. So you've got two facilities that are using the same transmission, but they are separate facilities. And so the problem is then they get counted as one and they go over the cap. So that to me seemed like kind of a technical change that we, you know, the intent and what we worked on in 315 and 91 dealt with. So in terms of the House not hearing this particular thing, well, in a way, you know, it felt it did last year. Now, two other things. On the cost shift potential, it does seem to me that the directions that were given to the PUC last year to look into the cost shifting issue, and that, you know, we had the committee and then the direction given to the PUC to try to look into that more generally, which I don't remember what now was 91 or 315, we put that in, but that work is underway, and I would assume that it would include this as well. In terms of the questions that are asked, again, looking back to the process we did on, I guess it was 315, where the decision was made to ask those questions towards the PUC, and that's what we did the last time. Could do it here, it seems to me, for the ones that you enumerated. And I think also that the kind of questions about you know, the costs and so on, that I mean, I don't like kicking the cans down the road more than anybody else does, but that's why we're here most of the time, isn't it? You know, that it seemed to me to be possible, if you want those questions answered, to put in a time period under which this arrangement is good. I mean, give it a couple of years, and that way the questions could be answered either through the existing PUC or some more language added to this that would do that. So those are kind of my thoughts of, you know, why we ended up at our position, aside from saying that this is, you know, the issue of these plants is very important to the Senate, and that's been the case for a long time.
Thank you, Senator. Could you, one of you, refresh my memory from the public hearing that we had in the Senate on the Section 5 portion of the amendment? What was the answer to the question of why this amendment was offered so late in the process? Do any of you remember that?
I don't remember that being worded that way, why it was being authored so late. I do recall you agreeing to it, and then we asked you to come to the mic because we didn't record it, and then you said I agreed to it. With the mic on.
That is true. I did agree that it seemed like a reasonable proposal. And then when we had discussions in the House about it, all these questions arose that none of us could answer. And so that altered our thinking about this proposal. I still don't understand why waiting to introduce new legislation next fall would have a significant impact on this going forward.
Well,
A few months delay doesn't seem like a lot to me.
that's if we all get elected. And institutional knowledge leaves with individuals if they do not come back. You have to start the conversation all over again. This isn't exactly fun stuff to do. It's not something that you retain. It's something that comes along with the institution of individuals who have been working on this for years. We thought we had an agreement last year. We fixed some things. We just needed to twerk it. That's all we were trying to do. There is an amendment that I forwarded to you. I didn't know if you want. I mean, it's lengthy, but if you take time to look at it, I think it addresses some of the issues that you're concerned with. But it seems as though we're trying to solve something here, and you can raise 1,000 questions and torpedo something, which I think is I think that's what's happening.
Is this amendment something newly created?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is not the amendment that was passed by the Senate? Oh, okay. Let me take a look at it.
Maybe while we're doing that, I also have a couple of questions that maybe can be looked at. It appears what this is saying is it applies to hydro facilities that were operational before July 1st, 2021. I guess the first thing I'd like to know is how many of those are there? What are we talking about here? 2, 1, 50, or is it just a special interest bill for one particular company? Second, that provision of July 1st, 2021 doesn't seem to apply to energy storage facilities. So the way I read this is that how many of these places existed, they could go in and put in 10, 15 energy storage facilities as long as they were all less than 1 megawatt. And then they could be dispatched whenever at the rate of 15, 20 megawatts, if there was that many of them there at one time. So again, it seems like energy storage facilities aren't covered by this.
Line 25.
Pardon?
Line 25.
Line 25, okay.
Nothing in this
Department shall-
provision shall be deemed to approve or allow or participate in energy storage facilities in energy metering unless otherwise approved or allowed by law.
Then what's the point of having, it sounds like to me the law already approves it right up there where it says energy storage facilities. So now you're saying if the law doesn't say it, then they're not deemed to be approved, but listed in line 7, they certainly are approved because they're listed right there. You can't have it both ways. The other question I have is, how are these items dispatched by ISO? If you get accumulation of, I don't know, 6, 10, 15 megawatts being put on the grid at one time, how does ISO treat them? Do they treat them as a generator, or because they're over 5 megawatts and they have metering concerns that have to be addressed and so forth? Or are they treated like net metering as 6 individual or 10 individual 1 megawatt facilities?
To answer your first question, there's only a couple of hydros that we're addressing here, and we know that. So I'm not going to play games here. I think you're trying to kill the bill specifically.
If I may, Mr. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Um, in terms of the question about what the amendment does, the first part and the second part, the inclusion of energy storage facilities up above says they're eligible for the net metering, but down below, it says, well, yes, they're eligible, but it can't happen unless there's the approval process. So I think it needs to be up top so that they're listed as eligible, but the procedure as to whether or not it's done is down below. So
I'm a little confused, Senator, on that because it seems to be saying they're eligible, but then unless deemed approved
Right.
or allowed the participation in net metering unless otherwise approved or allowed by law. This is a law that allows them, or an order or decision issued or rule adopted by the Department of Energy or the Public Utilities Commission. So it sounds as if they're already allowed by law. And now you're saying we have to have an additional law to do it, or the PUC or DOE has to come in and approve it?
I guess that the difference is that the word eligible doesn't mean approved.
Well, that's part of the reason I don't like bills like this. They don't have time to vet because I'm still not sure what it says. And also, does anybody know how they're dispatched by the ISO? Okay. That was my questions.
This is characteristic of the kind of questions that remain unanswered and give the House serious concerns about whether we should move forward at this time. We feel that it would be appropriate to bring this bill forward in the fall or next session so that the full House can have a chance to weigh in on these issues, ask these questions, get these answers, and make a determination about whether or not this is good policy to move forward with.
Well, if I may make one more comment on that. It was asked earlier about the timeliness, and I think in the hearing report on pages 5 and 6, some of that gets addressed, and that we passed 91, and they merely went about their business working with Eversource to implement, and they discovered that there were some issues that the legislation needed to clear up, so that process had to stop. So that's why this fix here lets what we had thought the intent of 91 would be to go forward. Now, Mr. Chairman, here it is. It's what is it, May, whatever, and we have the opportunity to walk away or the opportunity to try to do something, and it does seem to me that it would be possible to put in here that this shall be effective until a certain date. And that lets them get going and get the negotiations finished. And then, then we'd have a chance to take as many more bites at the apple as we want next time. And some of those questions would likely be answered in the proceedings at the PUC and elsewhere over it. So it could, we could say that a repeal date on that paragraph of what do you want, 2024, July 1st, 2024, something like that. That gives us 2 years of a session to do what we want to do, and then that would be a way to not have the whole bill just die.
So you're suggesting then that under 6 effective date, we change the language to indicate that Section 5 would take effect on
Passage, but then it would repeal. It would sunset 2 years after, and that way they could do what they got to do, make the case that if the case needs to be made, there would be probably some PUC. We'll get a report about the cost shifting from the PUC. Some of these dockets might come forward to approve this power, and I think we're going to need to talk to Heidi, take a little recess just to chat with her about what I'm proposing, because maybe I'm done proposing something that's just going to make her pull out her hair, but it would be a way to get us through today, and I know you care about the first part of the bill.
Okay, thank you. So it is now 10:20. Let's take a break until 10:30.
Okay.
And then we'll reconvene. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you very much. We're going to resume this committee of conference after a lengthy break and some lengthy discussions about the issues involved. And Senator Waters, I want to thank you for your compromise suggestion of adding a 2-year sunset provision to this legislation. However, it doesn't seem that that would really buy much for this legislation. And as we went through the discussion and the litany of questions that we have, we still don't feel comfortable with moving forward with this legislation at this time. So our position is going to be the same as it was at the beginning of this, at this committee of conference. If we can't persuade you gentlemen to walk away from Section 5, then I guess we're all going to walk away. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Committee of Conference is adjourned.